Okay, hello there. That's the first time I'm recording a proper English speaking episode for the new podcast. So I'm really glad that my first guest is Amel, who is my fellow membership, what do you call it? Like mastermind member, fellow lady, I would say we're this online lady mafia. That's a
Oh,
better term.
yes. I like that. The online lady mafia.
Yeah, I don't want to introduce Amel too much because I'm gonna be totally unobjective because I just adore her from the perspective of exchanging of knowledge, being from totally different field of knowledge and totally different business, but still having this common ground where we can exchange ideas. So Amel, I'll just ask you to introduce and tell the whole story, the whole story.
What? You want the
of
whole story? Are you serious?
Yeah,
I'll,
you'll see. It's so inspiring.
I'll still try to make it short. Hello, everybody. Thank you for listening. I'm excited to be part of this great new podcast from Agnieszka. Congrats for this great initiative. So my story. So my name is Amel Derragui. I'm the founder of Tandem Nomads, which is a podcast show and entrepreneurship platform designed to help global nomads build a portable business. And anybody as well who wants to have the flexibility of life and business and work. Now, portable businesses are hotter than ever, but this is something that I've been doing for the 10 past years, running my business on the move. And it came from the fact that first of all, I've been a global nomad my whole life. I come from Algeria, born in India, raised in 5 different countries or so. Um, and basically I've been raised on the move, never lived more than 2 3 years in a country. By the time of the age of 16, I told to my parents, you're ruining my career. That tells you the mafia. I was already very ambitious, like, parent, you're ruining my career. And I managed to negotiate with them that I would leave the household at the age of 16 and went to high school in France, lived on my own since the age of 16 basically. Yeah, so that was a big one. And my entrepreneurial journey started when I was 14. I've always been into solving problems, and I've started a lot of whenever I would see a problem. And the first problem I've met in my journey was racism, and like really racism in my school. And so I started my first entrepreneurial journey to fix it. I believe that businesses fix structural problems in the society. It's more than just about money. And then I started working in advertising when I finished my studies in France. And I started my career actually in the meantime, got hired by an American company and traveled back and forth between the US and France to sell encyclopedias door to door. And then I
Oh,
grew in the
wow.
company, had my own team of salespeople, and then ended up in Arizona to finish my MBA, then came back to France, and I started my career in advertising. And that's when I was like very much passionate about another. We'll talk a lot about mission statement. My biggest thing was how can companies can use their
Mhm.
communication marketing budget to make an impact. So I was really lucky to end up in a company that where I was in a
Yeah.
special unit where we were working on that. That has always been important to me, the whole mission statement of corporate companies. But I was really happy. Everything was great. I was ready to buy my apartment. I was like, yes, I'm making it. I'm getting to that dream career I wanted. And then I went to Iran to visit my parents on holidays, and I met who became my husband. And so Michael and I have been married now for over 10 years. And when he met me, when we met each other, I was already telling to my parents, I will never live my career for a man and I will never move again. We'll never
Oh,
say
we know the
never
story. Yeah.
because because I did quit my job and then moved to Iran, and that's when I started my business, my first business as a consultant for corporate companies, and I was doing strategic and marketing consulting related to, any assessing any challenges that they have through their business strategy, but most of the positioning was about mission statement and how do we have a marketing strategy that sells while making an impact. That was something that I was very much positioned on. And yeah, I did this for 6 years while moving from a country to another. We went to Austria after that, and now we're in New York City. So I told you I was, don't tell me to tell you the whole story,
But that's
but
so fascinating, how to, take this advantage of being here and there in different countries, different cultures. That's why I wanted this story, because it's like sometimes we live in the same place and we've got like this narrow perspective. And you probably have this huge comparison how it is to, lead the business in other countries. Yeah.
yeah, the world is our playground for sure. And we're very, I mean, I'm so, so grateful for this experience and this lifestyle. To be honest with you, it does come with a lot of challenges. And one of the many challenges, on top of identity, to be honest with you, I'm jealous of you, Agnieszka, because you have this huge business that related to embracing our culture and embracing,
Yeah.
the know-how. This is beautiful. And I'm a melting pot of so many different cultures that when people ask me where you come from, I still can't answer.
Yeah,
But
I get
one,
you.
yeah, but I do love that we can connect to any culture when we have a similar mindset and the
Yeah.
similar values, and that's what matters at the end. But I do value as well the heritage. I think heritage is something very beautiful, and art, and we'll talk about it today. Art and artisanal and handmade stuff, a beautiful way to actually nurture that heritage, but also share it with the world. And so I think that's a beautiful thing. But just a side note, talking about the challenges, just to finish, one of the challenges I had and talking about impact was the position of many expat women who gave up their careers on the
Yeah.
move. And so I wanted to talk about that because I found that women were very vulnerable in terms of financial security when they gave up everything to leave on the move for
Yeah.
their partner's jobs. And I needed to talk about that issue. And that's when I started a podcast, just like you do, to talk about this problem and empower women to think that they don't have to give it up all. It's not because you want to take care of your kids, that you want to be able to support your husband on the move, that you have to give up everything.
Yeah.
Just with a hobby, if you have like a hobby, you can build a little bit of foundation to have a bit of side money so that you can create a bit of safety net. And even if it doesn't make a lot of money, you are building the foundations in case something happens. You can immediately pivot and put a big focus on it. So, this is where I started this podcast on the side of my consulting business. And that had turned into something much bigger very quickly. A year and a half later, I had to close my consulting business and focus on Tandem Nomads and provide one on one coaching for online businesses to help people grow a portable business. There's a difference between online business and portable business, and
Yeah.
maybe we can talk about that later.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
good.
yeah, and yeah, so basically, I do it through coaching and online courses. But yeah, but heritage, yeah, I would love to talk about that with you.
Yeah, that's what I was like leaning into with the question, because it seems that what you do, this difficult situation that your clients find themselves in, it seems to be this sometimes a turning point in their life. Like, I just imagine the situation like my Jacek would get a super fancy job. Now I wouldn't leave the place I'm in, but like 10 years ago I used to follow him. Like when I was pregnant, he had like proposition, or even during studies, because we're like this couple that we know each other since we were children. So that's a long story. But there's always, when I look back, there was always that he got promoted, so I moved with him and like supported him. And then I found a fancy job. I like, they needed architects, like qualified architects. I found a perfect job. But looking at it from the perspective, I see that it was, for me, this moment of change was a push to challenge myself. But there
Mhm.
was one time when I didn't get the job.
Mm.
Actually, it turned out to be the blessing, because I started my own business, and that kind of
Here we
pushed me.
go.
I was always like pushing it away in time, but that was the push to do it now, right? But when I saw that, I just like felt this, shivering on my back. It's like, I'm not worth it. I'm not, good enough. And all those, nasty feelings that drag us down with this downward spiral. So I just admire what you do, because I can just imagine for some women, especially probably, but also men, like going somewhere, following your partner, then you find yourself in totally different situation. It's not that you go there and you've got this proposition like your partner does. You have to like kind of fight for it, own it, like create it for your own. And that's really difficult, because when you get rejected once or three times, oh, you
Mhm.
don't really want to, try it out for the 10th time and send this CV once again. So I've been
Exactly.
there. That's why I wanted you on this podcast, because those are feelings that we don't talk a lot. Like, they are not that visible. There is this
Yeah.
like something in the background going on, and it's thanks to you that people are talking about it, perceiving those partners that support other partners. But what I was aiming at as well is not only the fact that how you support them, but I was really curious about the story, because you said about this identity, like, it's easy for me to, claim that I, like, promote Polish handmade because I was born in Poland, raised in Poland. And even though I studied in many places abroad, that kind of gave me the perspective. It kind of made me take that decision to stay in Poland, because I never felt I belong in other places. I
Mm.
felt I grow. I open my mind, but I kind of felt more, maybe not different, but I kind of felt stronger, that I have some unique qualities, and it made me appreciate who I am as a, Pole, as a woman, as a mother, and with all those cultural differences. So I admire you, but because for me that was really hard to live in other countries. That was so strong, this feeling that I like kind of need my homies around me. But
Yeah.
what I was aiming at about this identity, I feel that even now, if I would move to other country, I guess all the memories and all the heritage and all the people, and maybe like grandma, granddad, and all the memories of those people, that would be the anchor that would create my identity. And I know that you've got some stories with handmade in that. So that's just, I'm just like giving you voice in a moment, but I just wanted to, drop this idea about handmade, because it seems that no matter the country, no matter the culture, the more I read about it, the more people I meet, I see that handmade seems to be this international language where you have like your grandma, granddad, or parents. That's this language of body, like of touch, that you give to your kids when you want to convey those, warmest feelings, like spend time together, or teach something like, physical skills, or maybe give this awareness that you are able to do something with your hands. So you're like, that's this empowerment when you give those kids this ability to create something on their own. And I see that's present in every culture I meet,
Yeah.
and it comes with handmade. So that's so beautiful, and I know that you also have some memories
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah, I love anything handmade and I love to do things also. It comes from my father. My relationship with my father has been all built with hand making things, all sorts of things. And I became at home, it's not my husband who fixes stuff, it's me. Like whenever something is broken, I'm going to bring the tools and fix them. But funny enough, like you said, I do, when it's by meeting you and having this conversation with you that I realized that the most powerful memories that I cherish very much are actually related to handmade things. Of course, it starts with the grandmother. Actually, my grandmother on my mother's side was in Algeria, we have a huge culture of fashion, of embroidery, and it's like with golden
Reds, yeah, yeah.
embroidery. It's a little bit like very similar to Turkish. Actually, even the Turkish, it comes from the Ottoman Empire, but the Turkish did not leave. It's interesting. It traveled all the way to Algeria, where I come from, but in Algeria, it stayed that culture, right? Of
And it
embroidery and
grew, yeah.
yes, and India has a lot of it. And my grandmother actually did all the dresses of my mother's wedding. And she became also a teacher who taught embroidery.
Wow.
And at some point in my childhood, I had to live with my grandmother for different reasons. That Algeria was going through a terrible time, and my parents had to put me with my grandmother to be more in security. Basically, this was during the terrorism,
Yeah.
and I lived with her for a while, and it was so beautiful to see her. She had young students who would come to the house, and she would teach them how to do the embroidery. And I don't know if you ever have seen this tool. It's this big wooden tool that you put between your legs.
Yeah.
It's like a meter or 2 meters, and you slip it in your legs, and then it basically holds the fabric, and you have this like little big needle to get things through the fat,
Material, yeah,
thick
because it's
material, right?
from thief, yeah.
So this is one of the memories that I have with my grandmother. But interestingly enough, my stronger memories with handmade was with my father, because he used to be really good at sewing and stitching. And I remember for one of the powerful memories was for Mother's Day, we have designed together a whole set of tablecloths and napkins that I've
Oh,
been
wow.
embroidering. So I did the embroidery and he helped me with stitching, the fabric and things like that. It was amazing. I remember it was even, I have no idea why I chose to put snails. I don't know why I chose
Symbolism
snails.
or
So it was full of embroidery of snails. But that was, yeah, I do have a lot of memories with that. And funny enough, because we moved so much, I think we lost those things, but the memory is still here, right? Even if it's handmade and it's something tangible, those memories are there, and that never goes away.
yeah, and I'm so glad that you shared it because that's like the reason I do this business. For me, when I started, it was conducting those handmade business was just a runaway from being with two kids and getting crazy because my ambition, like professional life, was dead. So I just like needed to go out and talk to some people who are not talking about poo or gluten-free food or like something like that for kids. And that's how it started. But when I started like peeling those layers, like onion layers in my business, like growing within this business based on handmade workshop, I discovered what a power and what a beauty there is, just like you share it. We come back to those things that actually create who we are, those
Mhm.
memories of our granddad, our grandma, our mom, and the time together and the things we created, and this feeling that we can do something, like we can create it. We are creators, right? And that's, I guess, those are those plants that were seeded within us when we were so little. We were
Mhm.
just like unconscious what it's going to grow, and it grew into entrepreneurship. I
Yeah.
strongly believe that it gave us this tool. So that's the reason behind what I do what I do. And I kind of see that now it's also growing to those meetings or those interviews, just like we talk about it now. Even
Yeah.
talking about handmade seems to convey this message of like being together, spending time together, and kind of trying to create something new out of just being together, just talking together. So that's really amazing. And yeah, I'm really glad that you shared this story because for me, and I guess for our audience as well, that's so amazing to live in so many countries, and how you elastically shifted within the business, and obviously with flats or like where you live. And how is this for you? Did you choose like this place where you're at, like that the fancy place, right? That's conscious choice, or you're still on the way because the portable business seems to carry this message that you're gonna take it somewhere.
Yeah, I'm probably going to move soon again. And yeah, and New York has been the place where I lived the longest, 7 years. I've never, ever lived 7 years ever. And I think this is probably going to be the most difficult one, emotionally, because it's so good to actually just have to settle, to just sit put for a bit. Um, yeah, so we don't get to choose, where we go all the time. So it really depends on the job of my husband. But in my case, I'm so glad that I don't have to worry. I can take whatever I do and continue my routine. And as soon as I land, I continue my business as if
Yeah,
nothing happened. But I also can choose, even without the travels, I can also, I realize, because I'm trying to plan 2021 and it's going to be a big year for us. I'm like, it's not because I have a portable business that I also have to stretch it and work every hour of it. I can decide the revenue I want to make next year, and how long I want to work, and when is the time of the year I want to, be off,
chill
to
out.
be able to
Yeah.
have a smooth transition as well. And you can make those decisions when you have a portable business. You can't do that when you have a 9 to 5 job,
Yeah.
or a brick and mortar business, or a non-portable business. So That's something I'm really grateful about. So let's see where the wind takes us. We'll see.
Yeah, that's really precious that you share this idea of a portable business, because it seems when I'm working with handmade artists whom I help to, create the foundation of their own businesses, because usually it tends to be just about create stuff and sell stuff, and that's not a portable business or scalable or actually never not even sustainable to like live decently.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always tell them that, we as women, majority of my clients are women. It's not about, having this business to show the whole world how independent you are. And that's why I'm so grateful that you're sharing that we can make those decisions to, follow our partner, like maybe move because he moves and he, I don't know, got promoted, or just decided like altogether that we want to change places. And this idea of having at least a basis, this foundation of a job that we could decide how much we want to work, when we want to work, that's really something liberating. For me, that's something that builds your independency, not this
Yeah.
idea that, you have to grow, I don't know where. You can just
Yeah.
choose that you just want to chill out with your guy and have a holiday in December, for example, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And you live that, right? You're living that. You can choose to live your life the way you want. But I want to like warn everybody, it takes work to get there, right? It's
Yeah.
not something that happens from a day to another. For you to enjoy the fruit of your labor now, you had to bust your behind off, just to be polite. So, right? So it takes some really dedication at the beginning, but once you have the right systems, you've built the right foundations, that's when you can allow yourself to kind of be strategic and take this to the next level and say, okay, now that I've done this, I've proven my concept, I have traction. How do I want to design a business that is aligned with the lifestyle I want? But at the beginning, it's not going to happen on its own. There will be some hard work to do.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And there's also this one last issue, and I promise I won't take you long, but
No.
I just wanted to touch on this issue because you talked about the identity on the beginning, and it's
Yeah.
for me it's really easy to create this tribe of like-minded people. Like we all love handmade, and basically more or less we're from Poland or we're Poles but living abroad.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of common ground, and it's easy to like glue us together. But what I've noticed in your community, there's also this glue that puts you together, this vulnerability, because you open-heartedly share the story of your background, but also share the story that you decided to follow your partner because you just love him, right? And you made those decisions that were maybe not so comfortable for you, or you needed to move and take the business and start all over somewhere else. But still you created this tribe of people who are connected with this idea that, yeah, I want to have the business that I can take it with me wherever, whenever I want to go. How do you do that? How do you do that?
You so we got disrupted. Could you repeat the question? How do
Yeah,
you?
yeah. How do you do that? That you just glue those people together?
Oh.
Because it seems you've got people from, all over the world, but you're still with this idea of portable business
Yeah.
connected with your minds. How do you do that?
So I think the key, and this is my marketing background that will speak, but as well like the human side of the whole thing. And for me, to create a tribe and a community is, especially behind a business, it starts with really identifying who's that like like what is that niche, right? What is that specific type of people? And sometimes it doesn't have to do anything with countries. It's about, we're human beings, right?
Yeah,
So there's a lot of common things and dreams that we have even across borders, first of all. But on top of it, there's a lot. I think there's over 50 million expats in the world, so that's my target audience. Although it's been growing, I don't
yeah,
focus only on expats anymore, but this is how it started. And when you're an expat and you live on the move, it becomes your identity, right? And it is a culture on its own. So, as strongly as when you live in one country, you develop a certain identity, when you are a global nomad, you are part of a tribe on its own. Because when I go to an event and we recognize each other right away. It's so interesting. It's like I can't explain it, but you immediately know when somebody is a nomad versus somebody who's just traveled once, for example.
Mhm.
It shapes your identity. Travel creates a whole new breed. It's like a whole new breed of identity where it's actually not related to all the traditional things
Yeah,
of a country, but more like this global identity. And that's what I love about it, this like that you can connect and feel as if you know each other even if you come from different countries, because there's some there's a set of values and there's a set of mindset and behaviors that are very common. So I didn't have to do a lot of work there besides targeting them.
yeah,
But as I grow, the world is moving towards that, right? Even you, like Agnieszka, you're not a global nomad, but we have a very similar mindset, right?
yeah,
We connect, and even if we're from two completely different cultures. So I think it's a lot to do with knowing, it's important to know who do you want to attract in terms of your values and your mindset. That's really, really important. And it doesn't have always anything to do with countries.
yeah,
Um, and I think the one thing also is still that the people I attract are people who want to make an impact, who
yeah,
want to serve. And a business is not just a way for them to make money, although money is very important. Is a way to make a change in the world. It's a way to to help people. And I think that's also somewhere where we also align, right? So
yeah.
it doesn't have to be about expatriation, but it did start there. It's just we discovered along the way that we have more than just travel in common.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true what you say. And about, earning that usually it's always about the money because after all, when we're making business, it's all about the money. But it seems that now we're so privileged in those times that we could actually make those decisions and decide what we want to do with the money we earn, how we earn it, whom we serve, whom we help. So creating business seems to be that like this. For me, I never had it in architecture. It was
Mm-hmm.
always about, delivering the great project. Obviously, you want to be the best you can for your clients, but it was always about, flat fees or like earning more and more and more. And there was this glass ceiling somewhere. And now earning more money means impacting more people, having this influence on others, like helping other women to make more money and have the impact as well. And you have it the same in your business. And that's so fascinating for me. That's why I was so happy that we could share it and talk about it.
Same,
Yeah.
same. I love that. Yeah.
Well, I do want to let you go, but I just have to ask this question. Like I always, ask people, and we didn't prepare that, so our listeners will have the true story. And if that's going to be a break, just tell me. I don't know, but I always ask, what's this first thing that comes to your mind when you think about, Polish handmade or like handmade? Are those ideas just, your background, the embroidery from childhood, or are there any, you know images or connotations that come to your mind when you hear Polish handmade or handmade?
Yeah, so definitely when I hear Polish handmade, my first thought is quality and heritage, right? These are my two big thoughts. And I lived in Serbia as well, which is not too far. And
Yeah,
I know that Eastern European culture has a lot to do with handmade stuff, right? And maybe that's also why I've been influenced by that as well. And but I yeah, for me, Poland has a huge connotation with heritage, history, and quality of materials. That's what I think when I think Polish. My second thought, and that's going to surprise you, has nothing to do with handmade, but entrepreneurship for me. Like when I meet a Polish person, I immediately think startup or entrepreneurship as well, because they're the most entrepreneurial people I've met in my journey. I've met a lot of Polish people around the world, and they're always so positive and feisty, and you can throw any challenge at them, and they're figuring it out. They
yeah,
will figure it out, and that's what I love about Polish people.
that's super cool. Yeah, that's the best compliment we could get for the end of the podcast, Amel. Thank you for Yeah, that was amazing talk. I hope we're gonna meet
Perfect.
again soon. So thank you so much.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to meet you in person, but in the meantime, we'll continue our great chats. And thank you for
Exactly.
everyone listening.
Thank you.